Good evening and welcome. You're listening live to Heart-2-Heart, a program which aims to help you understand and to become your loving self. I'm Dr. Mitra Rashidian. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and a certified sexologist. And I'm here along with my best friend, business partner, and colleague, Dr. Robert Jaffe, offering you today's show at KMET 1490 AM, ABC News Radio, and welcome.
And welcome. Thank you very much for that beautiful introduction.
My pleasure, as always.
I'm Dr. Robert Jaffe. I am also a licensed marriage and family therapist, a certified hypnotherapist. And we're here today to talk about addictions, codependence, trauma, and relationships.
Yes.
And the biggest addiction that we know of is what we call codependence, which is sort of an addiction that is the most prevalent and the most highly ignored and least understood.
Exactly. So before everything, we want to, say this is a holiday season.
It is.
Right? Even though it's a COVID season, COVID holiday, right?
It's a COVID holiday. Hopefully it'll be the last.
Hopefully it will be the last one.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully that, we all can manage, follow the guidelines that they are being provided and reminded all the time, and even though thankfully we are so lucky to have a vaccination going on for it,
mm-hmm.
Still, it's so highly, imperative to stay with the guidelines.
It is.
And, to maintain social distancing, to cover our face with mask, and we don't have to go anywhere that's not essential, especially during these days. I know that it's difficult because this is the time that most families get together. They travel across the nation and even abroad to meet with the family, to spend the time with families, during holidays, and we have many holidays happening at this time. So it really doesn't matter what holidays. What matters for us is to being together. However, COVID doesn't permit us to do that this year.
Well, there's together and then there's together,
yes,
right?
Right.
And what we're talking about is keeping our bodies safe.
Right.
We can share with each other.
Yes.
We're lucky enough to live in a time where we have electronic media, and we have a number of ways of connecting with each other. And I want to remind everybody that what we are is energy. And what we are as human beings is energy shaped by consciousness. What do I mean by that? I mean that our awareness of being and our awareness of being who we are is what's most important. And we can share that with someone else anytime that we are connecting with them.
Exactly.
So, yes, it's not the same to be in the room with someone and be able to see them and experience them. It's not the same as doing it on Zoom or FaceTime or over the phone. However, it goes a long way towards alleviating the loneliness and the disconnection when you use those mediums. And so while at the same time you can be feeling sadness over not being able to perhaps see your loved ones in person, you can also rejoice in the fact that that you're keeping yourself and they're keeping themselves physically safe, and that's the most important thing, and that you can still connect. So we don't have to disconnect just because we can't be in the same room.
Exactly. For example, my daughter, she lives in Seattle, and during the past year, since the start of pandemic, I only, managed to see her once, right? And that was a few months ago. And we're not going to meet here in Los Angeles for the holidays because it's just simply not safe for her to travel here or for myself to travel to Seattle.
Right.
So, we're going to connect on Christmas Eve via Zoom or Skype or FaceTime, or we're just going to talk over the phone, and then this is how it is for this year, and it's not, going to be forever.
Right.
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 It's not the same. Yes, I get it, but we can prepare the same meal and eat it together.
Yeah, well, okay. We have to kind of watch each other eating over Zoom, right?
Over Zoom, yes.
How's your
So,
cranberry sauce?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
it's
we can
delicious.
see.
How's yours? Yeah.
No,
So,
I said, maybe I order her food, so she can, I don't know if how much she can cook or, how much time she has time to cook, but
hmm
maybe I can just order her food to be delivered to her, and then I order the same thing for myself, and then we just eat the same meal.
yes, yes,
you know.
absolutely.
So just be safe, you know, just make the best out of it for yourself and know that next year is going to be totally different and totally better, and we're having so much happier times ahead of us.
Indeed, indeed. And so we want to encourage everybody to listen to the people who have spent their lives researching this.
Right.
Science is not guesswork.
Right.
Science is proving, and the scientists, they don't just guess and say, "Oh, I think that masks are going to be helpful." They have evidence, and so we need to respect the people who have spent years studying something, as opposed to the people who are just scoffing at that and saying that no, that's ridiculous. I heard one person say, "Oh well, I just don't believe that masks can prevent microorganisms from getting into your lungs." And I said, how many years have you spent studying microorganisms?
Exactly. Yeah.
Because the truth is that masks can filter out a lot of it. And so, anyway,
Or eliminate a spread of it.
and eliminate the spread. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
so anyway, we've said enough. We've made our thoughts clear about this.
And
And
I like to add, many lives have been lost. Many families don't have their loved ones next to them this Christmas, this holiday season, because of COVID.
many lives have been lost, and many people are very ill.
Very ill at the hospital.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So this is totally a different holiday, time that we have with respect to the history that we have.
hmm
And we know that is very difficult, however, at the same time, I wanted to let you people know that, you're not alone,
Yeah.
really.
And
This situation, I think, is going to bring us together more than divide us.
well, it has the potential to do that.
Yes.
Like you were saying, maybe yesterday, you were saying that illness and COVID is not a respecter of belief systems.
Right.
Right? Doesn't matter if you're a Democrat, Republican, Independent. Doesn't matter. COVID, it doesn't care, and COVID affects everybody.
Everybody.
And so I want to say to the people who are listening and may who have COVID, or know somebody who is struggling with COVID, or somebody who has passed because of COVID, um, our thoughts and prayers go out to you. We really feel, sad that you've had to experience this, and we know that this is this it for certainly the people who know someone who's been affected seriously, or who's going through it themselves, or someone who's passed. It's a very, very tough year.
Yes.
And now, with the holiday and Christmas and New Year's, it's going to be the first holiday that you have to experience either without somebody, or knowing that that person is sick, or going through the illness yourself. And it's a very tough thing. And we wish you the best, and we want you to know that there is support.
Yes.
There is support, and you can always reach out and get the support. All you got to do is check online for support groups.
Exactly.
And help for COVID, and you will find a lot of sites that will come up, and utilize them. That's what we're that's one of the great things about our progress as a species, that we have developed ways of remotely helping people.
I have lost a few people, not immediate families, but I have lost a few people that I know of to COVID-19. And that's exactly what I told family members, that there are so many support system available that they can reach out and get help as much as, they can get help.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, however, at the same time, many of us are here and we're here for each other.
Mm-hmm. Right. We're here for each other. Yeah. So today we're going to be talking more about the greatest addiction that we know of, the most powerful, the one that affects the most of us, the majority of us. We've been talking a lot over the past several months about codependence. And so just to recap, what is codependence? Codependence is an addiction which says that I don't have within myself what it takes to cope emotionally in the world. I need somebody else to rely on. And if that person is reliable and and I can rely on them, and I do rely on them, then I feel good. And if that person isn't reliable, and I can't rely on them, or I try to rely on them and they're not always present for me, then I feel lost, or I feel angry, or I feel scared, or I feel anxious, because I don't believe that I have within myself the ability to deal with what life is throwing at me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a disease of lost selfhood.
Lost selfhood, yeah. Each of us comes to the world with our authentic true selves. Just to recap, some of the qualities that we come in with are, oh, thank you. Some of the qualities that we come in with are we come in curious about the world. We come in honest. When we come in, we don't know how to lie. We all come in trusting. We trust that the world is going to respond to us in a caring and loving way. And we all come in emotionally available, meaning that we can respond to the things, that the people and the things around us, and that we have that ability to respond. So we are response able, or we are responsible when we come in to feel and show our feelings, and then if other people around us are able to understand and connect with our feelings and respond, and they are response able and are able to respond in a loving, caring way, then we become healthier, and we become more happier and more connected with our authentic true selves. And then what is codependence? We just got notified that we're going to have a little break. We'll talk a little more about what codependence is. And then today we're going to talk a lot about the true self and the false codependent self, and how we can know the difference, and why it's important to know the difference.
So, exactly. Wonderful.
So please stay with us, and we look forward to seeing you in a few moments.
Welcome back to the commercial break. This is Heart-to-Heart program at KMET 1490 AM, ABC News Radio. Dr. Mitra and Dr. Robert here. For those of you who just joined us, our discussion for this part is about codependency and what is false self and what is true self. And we would like to hear from you, so please call us at 951-922-3532. We are also on YouTube at heart-2-heart.online/YouTube, and we have some free, downloads for you over there. Also, we would appreciate if you can, introduce this program to those that you believe they can benefit from it. And we look forward to hearing from you, whether live here or whether, privately. So, Dr. Jaffe,
Yes.
what is that false self? What is that true self? And how do we recognize when are we operating based on our true self and when are we operating based on our false self? And how do we become divided like that?
Exactly. Yeah. So basically, I just gave prior to the break, I gave some qualities of what the original true self is, um, and the true self is, or the authentic true self, or loving authentic true self, as we call it, is that part of us that feels positive about being moral, ethical, caring, and loving to ourselves and to others. Um, so if you want to dichotomize it and simplify it, simply speaking, the true self comes out of love, connection, and attunement to your to the things that make you feel good and will make other people feel good. The false self comes out of fear, negativity, and misattunement. And the false self, so the false self is fear-based. The true self is love-based. And fear is, as we know, very, very, very powerful. One of the things that we come into the world with is a very powerful instinct for survival. And that is like the predominant thing that motivates us when we come into the world. Mm-hmm. And so no matter what happens, we need to survive.
Absolutely.
That is, I'm going to use the word God because I believe in God, and you can have your own conception of what you think God is. But I think that God gave us that because we are in bodies that can be easily injured and can easily die. And so, to be fruitful and multiply, as the Bible says, we have to be able to survive. Mm-hmm. And so that's the main thing that motivates us. And if survival is not an issue, if we feel safe, physically safe, okay, and then of course emotionally safe, meaning that if we're unsafe emotionally, what does that mean? That means that we feel as though we are physically at risk. So if somebody says, you're so stupid, right? Well, does that mean that the person that our whole being is at risk of lack of survival? Well, to the ego part of us, and the ego is in charge of survival, it does mean that. Saying that I'm stupid is saying that I'm not good enough, and saying that that you can destroy me or someone else can destroy me, and my ego then comes to my rescue and defends myself and says, "What do you mean? What do you mean by that?" And there's an edge in your voice, mm-hmm. right? And then as soon as if you believe, if the person continues, you're stupid, you're an idiot, what you're thinking doesn't make any sense. The ego part of us wants to rail against that and say, no, I'm not, and then perhaps even fight back and say, what do you mean I'm stupid? You're stupid. Mm-hmm. So now we're in a fight for survival, even though it's not a physical fight. Our ego mistakes the emotional survival for physical survival.
Yes.
And so that's why people get into fights, is because they believe that they are at risk. Now, if you add, and so that's the animal part of us. We are part animal and we are part human. The animal part of us is the part of us that has the body and that is survival oriented. The human part of us is the part that has a spirit and that is love based, kindness, consideration, believes in the golden rule, right? Treat others as you would have others treat you.
Right.
But that rule goes out the window if you feel threatened. So if you grow up in an environment where you are safe, meaning that people aren't threatening you emotionally and or physically, then you are able to access your authentic true feelings and speak your truth without worry that the other person is going to attack you physically or verbally.
Exactly, and we see that in many capacities as children grow up, uh, they feel safe to say whatever comes to their mind and however they feel. And usually children do act out their feelings. They're not able to talk about their feelings.
Correct.
They are able to act it out because
Correct.
they don't know, that acting out is based on the feelings, basically.
Correct.
Right? And sometimes those action becomes questionable by caregivers, and the issue of discipline comes in, and then the discipline, we know that it's not working, just the discipline itself is not working, and sometimes the disciplines are very harsh, and so instead of communicating with the child in a loving way to understand the acting out, punishment comes to the play. Mm-hmm. And then the child learns that they cannot show their true feelings.
Right. Yeah. So a perfect example of that, and I love to use my daughter and her two twin girls.
Yes, she's amazing.
Well, because my daughter, is very knowledgeable about parenting. She's a social worker. She has a master's degree in psychology, and so when the two twin girls are fighting, or let's say one of them sees a toy that the other has and grabs the toy out of the other one's hands, and the one that just got the toy grabbed out of her hands will go and maybe push the other one or hit the other one. And my daughter will walk up to the one who's pushing and say to her, "You didn't like it that she calls him Sissy, right, sister?" She goes, "You don't like it that Sissy took that out of your hand, and you're angry with her, and you want your toy back, and but you know that hands are not for hitting or pushing, right? So what would it be? So can you use your words and say to Sissy, I want my toy back." See, and then the one that she's talking to will actually say, "I want my toy back," and then she'll turn to the one who grabbed the toy, and then she'll say, "Honey, Sissy was playing with that toy, and you took it from her, and I know you really want it, but you have to take your turn. So you need to give it back to Sissy now, and then when Sissy's done playing with it, then she'll give it back to you, and then you will have your turn."
Yeah,
See?
I mean, this is a perfect scenario like you describe it. At the same time, we see, moms and dads or caregivers who do not have this level of patience.
Well, not only patience, they don't understand that it needs to be explained.
Right.
So what happens with parents, and I'm going to say that this is the majority.
Yes.
This is not my daughter is in the minority.
Right.
My daughter has been educated. My daughter understands, and my daughter has made it a top priority to teach her children about being assertive and about what's emotionally healthy.
Yes, and to help them communication.
And healthy communication and understanding what they're feeling. Mm-hmm. Because the child is acting on the feeling. Right. She's angry. She's angry that her toy's been taken, and so immediately the feeling of anger translates into a behavior, and so what most people don't understand, and that's why we're here to help educate you right now. If you don't understand it, is that um, is that teaching a child what's going on inside of them and how to assert themselves is the key to discipline. Because discipline really means from the Greek word disciple, and a disciple means to follow the thoughts, feelings, and behaviors of the learned one. The learned one is teaching you. I am their disciple, meaning that I am the one that's learning from them.
Right.
So discipline really is not about punishment; it's about teaching.
Right.
And what we know is that as human beings, we are very, very bright. We're super bright, and we can understand things if things are taught to us in a way that we understand, right?
Right.
So
Exactly.
at 2 years old, we're going to understand a lot of words, but we're not going to understand all the words we will at 10 or 20.
Right.
So you use the language that the person at 2 will understand. And so that's when discipline begins, is between 18 months and 2 years, because the child has taken in probably thousands and thousands of words by that time. And even at 18 months, where the child is not able to talk, they're still able to understand a lot of the words. And so they understand through the tone of voice, and they understand through the facial expression, and as well as the words that are used. So you teach. So let's go back now to what has this got to do with codependency? So we were just talking about a healthy self versus the false self, right? The false self is fear-based. So when you have parents who are disciplining you through fear and punishment, you learn how to comply, but you don't learn how to understand.
Right.
So you become compliant. And so what often happens with people who are codependent is they become compliant with other people, but they don't become responsive to other people, because they're not talking. We're now not talking about how the person can communicate. We're talking about getting even and punishment.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And also survival here for the child.
And also survival. Survival, right.
Yes.
So survival is the bottom line to the ego, and love is the bottom line to the spirit.
Right.
And in order to get to the spirit, we generally have to transcend the ego, which means we have to be in a safe physical and emotional space so that we can say our truth. And so we know that we're not going to be threatened by saying our truth. If we feel as though we're going to be threatened by saying our truth, then we learn to not say our truth. We learn to say what's appropriate, or to be quiet. And if we say what's appropriate, meaning that what the other person is going to like hearing, or to be quiet, that is the beginning of the false codependent self.
Exactly.
Because you're not asserting your true thoughts and feelings because it's too scary to do so.
Yes.
And then what happens over time is that becomes a habit. So.
Well, that's what we learn.
We learn it.
So we learn it and we operate based on that. And then we don't mature our true self at the same time, as we are maturing our false self.
Right.
Right. And that's because we're so dependent on, on our caregivers. And this is how we believe that we're going to survive.
Right.
By complying to their messages, by complying by their own imposed messages on us and value system.
Yes. Yes. So what happens then if you lose your true self, meaning you can't state, there's a children's book, many of you listeners will have read it, called The Emperor's New Clothes, right? And that's about, briefly, it's a fable about an emperor who got some tailors to make him some new clothes, but he didn't provide them thread. So and he said, I want you to make the finest clothes and spin them out of gold. And he gave them gold. And so they said, okay, but obviously they couldn't make it out of gold. So they pretended that they made it out of gold. And they said, this is so fine that only the smartest people in the world can see it. Mm-hmm. And they pretended they made him a suit. And so he wanted to be smart. So he said, oh, yeah, it's a beautiful suit. And then the word got out in the kingdom that he had this suit, but only the smartest people could see it. So everyone if you went out naked, and everybody was going, oh, what a beautiful suit, because they wanted to be smart also. And one of the children says, oh, mommy, why is the emperor naked? Right? And then you could hear a pin drop, right? And so that is the true self, where, and the codependent self is everybody else who's saying, well, I want to be smart, and so I'm not going to I'm going to pretend that I actually see the clothes.
The clothes. So yeah. Such a fascinating, a story, which is so true in many contexts of life. So let's continue with this amazing topic right after our commercial break, and we look forward to see you in a few more minutes.
See you soon.
Welcome from our commercial break. Dr. Mitra, Dr. here live at KMET 1490 AM ABC News Radio. We are talking today about true self and false self, and how they are created, and how we become one versus the other one, depending on how we feel safe in life, and how much of a codependency we have, in different situations. So our live phone number here is 951-922-3532. Dr. Robert.
Yes, ma'am. So we were talking right before the break about the emperor's new clothes, and defining codependence as everybody who was watching the naked emperor saying, oh, what a great set of clothes, because they were all told that only smart people could see the clothes, and their egos said, I want to be amongst the smart people. And so they all jumped in line and said, yes, we're going to congratulate the emperor on such a fine set of clothes. And so out of that, the little boy or the little girl said, mommy, why is the emperor naked? And all of a sudden, everybody realized that they were foolish, because the emperor was in fact naked, and they were all kowtowing to the emperor and to make themselves look good, right? And that was their ego, which was protecting them from feeling stupid, which we've talked about before, as the ego's job is one of survival. And the ego now has moved from physical to emotional survival. I'm going to put survival in quotes, because it's not really survival, but according to the ego, it feels as though it's survival. So when somebody says, I'm stupid, or you're stupid, we feel like we have to attack back, as though we're actually being physically attacked.
Exactly.
Whereas the truth is, we don't have to attack back. If someone says you're stupid, you say, well, if that's what you think, that's what you think. But it doesn't really affect how I am, right? You can, sort of like sticks and stones, right? So if you say that I'm stupid, I have a choice to say, well, that's what you think, and tell me why you think that.
Right.
And if the other person gives me an argument why they think that, I can say, well, what you're really saying is that I don't have the knowledge that you have about this particular thing. I said, but that doesn't make me stupid.
Well, right? Sometimes I hear that because I said so.
Oh yeah, that's the old right. That's my way or the highway kind of. Yeah.
You're stupid because I said so.
Exactly. So, yeah. So anyway, so what we're talking about here? We're talking about all of the people who were standing around saying the emperor had a fine set of clothes were all practicing codependence, because they weren't being their authentic true self, because their eyes said, the emperor, he's naked, but they all pretended that what they were seeing wasn't the case. They all pretended, and the pretense was the lie,
Right.
and the lie was the codependence. So codependence means that we give up the truth of what we see, feel, think, know, what our senses tell us.
So we just giving up our authenticity.
We give up our authenticity, and instead we adapt ourselves to what we feel we need to do in order to survive, meaning that we need the approval and agreement
To belong to.
to belong.
Yes.
And of course, when you're 2 years old, and at 2 years old, and everybody knows really at 2 years old that they can't take care of themselves, they can't cook, they can't they can't change themselves when they're wet, they can't go out and make a living, they can't drive a car. There's a lot they can't do. They know that at 2, so they are totally dependent upon people to do things for them. And if those people are dangerous, meaning that those people are giving them the message that that your feelings don't matter, or it's my way or the highway, or don't you dare say that, then we will swallow our truth, and we will turn ourselves into a pretzel, which is the codependent self, the beginning of the codependent self. And then as we grow older, how does that work? So we're 2 years old, we can't take care of ourselves. 10 years old, we can take care of ourselves somewhat, but not a lot. 20 years old, we can take care of ourselves a lot, maybe not totally, but a lot. 25, 30, yeah, we can actually go out and earn a living. Why do we stay codependent? We stay codependent because we've learned that in order to go along, you got to get along.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
Or to get along, you got to go along. That's actually better said. So to get along, you got to go along. And so now there are people who say, my thoughts and my feelings are the most valuable, and therefore you have to conform to me. So that person wants other people around them to be codependent on them. And you find that a lot in politics, when you have people who say, my way or the highway, and the people around them are codependent. And it doesn't really matter, because codependency is not a matter of intelligence. We're all intelligent, and some people are even genius level. And it doesn't matter, because codependence has to do with emotional maturity. And we cannot mature in an environment where it isn't safe to say our truth.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So somebody who is in a power position, in business, or in a power position in the family, a parent, right, over the child, or let's say a husband who is making the money, and he has the power, and he misuses that power by saying, I'm not going to support you in the way you want to be supported, or I won't support you at all unless you do things my way. They're playing the codependent card out. They're saying, unless you're codependent on me, meaning that you do as I say, I will not give you what you need. And remember that the ego is about fear and survival. And so if you feel as though your survival is being threatened, for the majority, mostly you're going to capitulate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we see, the negative impact of codependency at workplace, for example, where, there are so many great ideas that an employee wants to present, but because of the fear that maybe, his or her idea is not of valued, or maybe, people will laugh at them, or the boss is going to get angry, because of, they haven't been living under their true self. We see that, those ideas, which could be actually the main idea that the company needs, they just go away, you know.
Yes.
And then people also that, you know, who don't present those ideas, they know they are the right ideas, but because they don't feel good about themselves and because they don't want to be excluded, you know, they just don't say anything.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So and so, you know, um, they developed, I think Henry Ford developed a suggestion box, right? And he did that because he knew that if he just asked people what they thought about the way that he was running things, that their fear of being fired, or another word of saying that their codependency would kick in, and he wouldn't get an honest answer. So he developed the suggestion box where people could leave suggestions anonymously. And I think I believe he was one of the first people to do that. But today they've sort of done away with that, and a lot of people in big companies are still afraid to share their feelings, as you were saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, um, we didn't have this sophisticated, you know, technology these days where everything can be traced back to the sender, you know.
Right.
So that's one of the reasons that people are still very much fearful to speak up and to present, you know, what may work. So this is not only at the, you know, at workplace. We see that within families, we see that within couples, we see that among children. So codependency is a learned behavior. It's a learned aspect of life that, you know, promotes life as false self versus true self.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
And it's all because of the fear of not belonging, fear of being rejected, fear of being excluded, fear of not surviving ultimately, you know. And even within marriages, within couples that if they come here, we see tremendous amount of codependency happening. Right, where one or both are so codependent towards each other that, you know, separating that is a really challenge both for the couple and for the therapist.
Right. Right.
You know.
Exactly. So what does it mean to be free of the of codependency? What it means is to begin to recognize when you are speaking, thinking, feeling your authentic truth about what's going on based on love rather than based on fear.
Fear, yes.
Right. So if someone says something to me, I have many choices as to how I can respond, both internally and externally. When I react, often I'm going to react based on old programming. So when I stop the reaction and I take a moment and I check in with myself and I say, what is my authentic true self feeling and thinking about this, and how can I express that in a loving, kind way, but still say my truth? That is what we call response ability.
Yes.
The ability to respond rather than react is the key to developing your authentic true self. Your codependent self is reactive. Your authentic true self is responsive. And when we are able to recognize when we are about to react to something and catch ourselves before we react, then we are taking responsibility for expressing our authentic true self and saying our truth. And our truth matters. It matters for us, and it matters for the person that we're talking to, and it matters in the world. Truth matters, because without truth, what we have is anarchy, internal anarchy, and anarchy between people and between nations. So being right has to subsume to being truthful. Being right is the ego. Being truthful in a loving way is the spirit. Now, what is love? Love is the essence of our being.
Yes.
Love is, I care about your feelings as much as I care about my own. And when we are expressing love to the person can feel it because we're showing them that you matter to me.
Yes, they
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
And if you can show this, clearly to our children, that to give them that self-esteem that they need to have to grow up with.
Yes.
That so the child can not only be able to receive the love, but to learn that he or she not only is a lovable person because he or she is loved, but then again they form the ability to give back the love.
Right. Exactly. They give it back because that's what they've been given.
Yes.
Yes.
So just like everything else that we teach our children, love is something that we need to teach them as well.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna say it even stronger. Okay. That love is the mainstay of what is going to make them a positive, industrious, important person in their life and in the world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Because love seems to be subsumed to everything else. We bring our children into school, and we want to teach them math, and we want to teach them science, and we want to teach them reading and writing, and we don't teach them about their emotions, and we don't teach them about their ego, and we don't teach them about their spirit. And so the person can come in to class, go through school, get a master's, to get a PhD, and still be a horrible person.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because they haven't gotten those other instructions about love and connection that they needed.
Exactly. So with that, we are concluding our today's program, and we look forward to seeing you, the next time, Fridays and on Thursdays. So please join us about other episodes about human sexuality and codependency, relations, addictions, and trauma. And happy holidays to all of you. Enjoy however you're celebrating. Just be safe, be well, and don't forget that all you need is love.
All you need is love, and happy Hanukkah and Merry Christmas. We'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.